Go. Hey, this is Ryan Rockwell, founder of Grow Yoga Biz, and I've got another exciting talk with Paula Robato, who just such a beautiful spirit and such a great teacher and very innovative, very innovative woman. Paula is a yoga teacher of 13 years, ERYT 500, trained in both Hatha and also Kundalini, which, again, my hat goes off to you for doing a 500-hour training right off the bat. Just, that's awesome. And then also owner of Yoga for All for the last 6 years. Welcome, Paula. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about something that a lot of studio owners and I think yoga teachers in general want to do is create their own yoga teacher training. So many of us have we've been teachers maybe for a little bit, and we love sharing the path of yoga. And we really love sharing the path of yoga with students who want to be more intentional, who want this to be more of a just something that's really a bigger part of their life. And they're ready either to become a teacher, or they just simply want to gain more knowledge in terms of the path of yoga and how they can incorporate that more into their lives. So, Paula, you have recently created a Kundalini yoga teacher training. I've watched you on videos. You're an incredible Kundalini yoga teacher.
Thank you.
And so I wanted to talk to you about how you actually created your own teacher training. Like, let me ask you, like, how long had you been thinking about this before you decided to make the moves to create it?
Well, it's been on my mind for several years, in the back of my mind, kind of planting the seed and letting it grow over probably 3 or 4 years, I would say.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been a long time since I've been feeling the call to teach this in a deeper level.
So did you have prior experience with teacher trainings? Have you have taught, been a part of one previously?
I did have an opportunity in a few different Hatha yoga training courses to do little workshops in the training. So just small pieces of the training, not the whole thing, but small little snippets. Yeah.
But you got some footing underneath you and kind of understood the setup of the teacher training.
Yeah.
So, well, then let's dive right into it. Kind of what was the process for getting your yoga teacher training approved?
Well, for me, first, I had to create a program. I had to have it all in my mind, what it would look like, and what the time frame would be, how much time I would want to dedicate to the course, and how I'd want to offer it. So would I want to offer it in, week modules or 2-week modules? Would I want weekends or 1 day a week for a whole year? And so I needed to take a look at that. And then I needed to look at the content. What are the subjects that I'm really wanting to offer for the training? And then create a syllabus around that and the objectives and, what is it that the student is going to get out of these different topics? And then,
no. So how did you decide? Because there's so many different scenarios that you can do. You can do 2 weeks, straight, and then, maybe 3 or 6 months later, do another 2 weeks straight.
Yeah.
You can do every other weekend, Saturday and Sunday. You can go 30 days straight. There's so many different scenarios. So what kind of helped you decide what was the best setup for you?
Well, I just had to sit with what is it that I really feel I'm capable of offering. And so for me, I felt like 1 weekend a month for 10 months was something that was doable for me. It gave me enough space in between the modules that I would be able to prepare and plan for it. And I feel like it would be enough, and for enough time to give a good juicy amount of information on the weekends, and then a chunk of time in between to integrate it all with homework and reading. So that's how I decided that setup.
I don't think I've ever heard Kundalini yoga teacher training and juicy be combined, but that's
It's a lot of great information.
There is a lot of great information, and the funny thing is I've mentioned this before in previous talks, is that the first time I came across Kundalini yoga was at a yoga retreat with Kia Miller and Tommy Rosen, and we were in Costa Rica. I was a day late because my plane was delayed. And so when I got there, I immediately went to my room, put my bags, and they were actually starting yoga, like starting the yoga class. So I ran up to the top floor, which was beautiful, looked over the ocean, gorgeous. Blue Spirit, I think is the name of it, Nosara, Costa Rica. But anyways, I walked into the room. As soon as I walked into the room, Tommy Rosen had his eyes rolling in the back of his head, and I was like, what is this? This is so different than anything I've ever encountered. And I like kind of just like walked over, put my yoga mat down, and was like trying to figure out, but it ended up being an amazing experience. I learned many different kriyas while we were there. And you know, it's just one of those things. Like, yeah, I was trained in integral hatha yoga in the Swami Satchidananda tradition. And I think a lot of us, whatever tradition we're trained in, we really hold tight to that. Mm-hmm. And it took me a really long time to begin to open up to other paths. I've resisted hot yoga for the longest time. So I was like, oh, that's such a fad. It kind of reminds me, I mean, it's not on the same level, but it's like snowboarding and skiing. I thought snowboarding was just such a fad, and all these guys they looked different. But the thing is that we really become better teachers when we can learn different styles, or at least be receptive and open to the different styles and check that out.
I like to think of it as we evolve, we're better able to know what yoga do I really need today.
Yes.
And because they all offer a gift, and when we can wake up in the morning and say, you know, for my practice, I really need to dive into a little bit of hatha yoga today, or you know, I need a little bit of yin yoga or flow yoga or kundalini yoga, right. Then I just need to do some chanting and meditation. So to me, that's a beautiful way to be able to start your day, and in a beautiful place to know, you know, let me draw from these gifts that each of them.
That's very cool. I like that. One thing that came to mind for me was when I was going through my second yoga teacher training. I have been drawn to yin again and again and again, not only to teach, but also for my own personal practice. But, you know, I was reading up right before I kind of did my last big teaching. And it was saying that, you know, a lot of people, it was talking about the yin and the yang. And it was saying that often a lot of people that are drawn to yin actually need more of the yang style of practice, because just for whatever reason, like, you know, like we need to be able to mix it up. If our energy is constantly in yin, then we need to often get the yang to balance ourselves out.
That makes a lot of sense.
It was the first time that actually I saw that, and I was like, man, darn it, I just want to do yin. Like, I just like the restorative yoga, but it just kind of showed me that I need to start incorporating other styles into my training. So, you know, getting back to your teacher training,
yep.
You know, you talked about picking the right type of module, the right setup, and then also picking your curriculum. So how did you pick the curriculum? Like, did you have something to go off of? How did you start to create that?
I started to create it just by going through a lot of my own notes from my own trainings and taking a look at the most important subjects that I feel would be the base foundation for any Kundalini yoga teacher that they would need to know, and then incorporating that.
So this was from your previous, the one that you actually went through. You looked through that syllabus and started to draw from.
Well, not the syllabus, but I looked through my notes, and I looked through all of the resources that I was given, and I picked the subjects that were based on that I felt was the most important for a foundation for teaching.
I asked that question because I wasn't sure. Like, there's quite a few resources out there right now. Like, if you want to create your own yoga teacher training, you could just simply Google create your own yoga teacher training,
Yeah.
and there are quite a few different resources that will show you how to put together your syllabus. And some that are just already put together. You just simply have to put your name on it. But it sounds like you obviously took it a step further and really wanted to make sure that you as a teacher, whatever you were putting out there, these were the things that you felt were the most important in terms
Yeah.
of the teaching, which makes
Yeah.
sense.
And Yoga Alliance has its requirements in terms of offering teacher training. So they have specific requirements in each category. And so it's a matter of being able to create a program that has something in each of those categories for this specific amount of time. They have so many hours
Right.
this for anatomy, so many requirements for philosophy, so many hours for history, and all of those kinds of things. So and then practicums.
Yeah. So let's also kind of, what was, I don't know if remember, can you tell us what was the cost of actually is there a cost of becoming a registered yoga school?
There is, yes, there is. I can't remember it exactly offhand. There is a cost to register your school, because you have to create a school first, and then you have to apply for that. And then once that gets approved, then you put in your syllabus, and they have to approve the syllabus. So sometimes there's some going back and forth from Yoga Alliance to myself, just changing things up, adding more hours in certain subjects that didn't quite meet their standards.
So,
and I think it was probably in Canadian dollars, it ended up being around $800.
In Canadian dollars?
In Canadian dollars.
Okay.
So maybe around 600 US.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a significant cost there. So, and I would imagine, first off, there was some criteria that you had to, some requirements that you had to meet before you could even apply to become a registered yoga school.
Yes. You have to be an ERY either 200 or 500 in order to become a teacher trainer.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good, because I don't know if all yoga teachers know that. And then, so you had that requirement, then you paid the fee to become a school, and then you had to submit your not your syllabus, but basically the actual yoga teacher training course and what was entailed, what was going to be involved in the program.
Yeah, what was my objectives and what was the outcome? Like, what's what are the students going to get from it?
Yeah. Okay. So what steps have you taken to plan, like, in order to have a successful yoga teacher training full of students? What steps are because we should probably note that first off, Paul, like, you're one of the most prepared people I've ever met in my life. Oh my gosh! Like, your yoga teacher training, today is December 5th of 2017, and your yoga teacher training, the Kundalini yoga teacher training, is taking place, I believe, next September of 2018.
Yeah.
Okay, so Paula already has her website up. She has everything obviously ready to go. So she's really put herself in a great position to.
It's been a busy year.
Give herself time to market for this teacher training. So what plans do you have in order to get the word out, to make sure that this TT is full of students?
Yeah. Well, I already have put out the word to several students that have been expressing interest in doing a training. And so just verbally starting to tell people, but I do plan in January to start advertising it a little bit more openly. I want to open up and kind of show everyone the website and things like that, because I haven't really disclosed all of that just yet. And so I'll share that with the community and all of Thunder Bay within my classes in my studio. And then if need be, I'm also going to do Facebook advertising to the outlying communities just close to Thunder Bay, probably within an hour to 2 or 3 hours away.
Yeah, which makes sense because if you're doing it once a month for a weekend, then that's something that someone could come in from an hour, 2 hours away from.
Yeah.
When you say introduce it to the community, how, in particular, what plans did you have to introduce it to the community?
Well, we do have on Facebook a Where to Yoga page on for just the people in Thunder Bay. So where to do yoga, and so all the yoga teachers put their stuff on that page, and all the yoga students have kind of liked the page. So it's kind of like a community yoga page.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'll be advertising it on there, and there's a yoga teacher forum just for the Thunder Bay area that I'll also put it on Facebook. Yeah.
Really? There's a forum, like a secret Facebook forum or open like private forum just for on Facebook?
For yoga teachers.
Very cool. Very, very cool. And that hopefully that brings up some ideas for some people that, like if there's not a yoga group in your area, like in your region or your city, create one, create it, be the admin, then you have the opportunity to really introduce a lot of people and reach even more students. It sounds like, like you really, and to give an idea to everyone is that Paula's city, she's in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and is it British Columbia? Or Ontario?
Ontario,
yeah. And your city has about 110,000 people total. I think I asked you, you can drive across the city in about 20 minutes. So it's a medium-sized city. It's decent. And then, but the interesting part is that like for 7 or 8 hours around you, like there's no major cities. You're fairly isolated. There's like little mining towns here and there, but Thunder Bay is quite isolated. So I think it's important because some people will like maybe hear this talk and like, oh, well, I'm in a small city or I'm here geographically and this doesn't make sense and all that stuff. Listen, I mean, I've seen teachers that have held successful teacher trainings in towns of as small as 15,000 people.
Yeah.
And as you said, you're going to be marketing it to people within an hour to 3 hours drive with you because they still have the opportunity to come in, during that time and take advantage of it. So any last words of wisdom for people that are thinking about creating a teacher training in their local area?
Nothing on the top of my head, I don't think. I just think really, if it's something that you really want to do, you're really passionate about doing that, is making sure that you yourself can show up for yourself. Because I think that having that sadhana every day, when a teacher gets to that point where they can show up for themselves every single day, they can align themselves with what their purpose is. And I think that's when we can start sharing to other people and help to elevate other people to learn and be inspired to be either teachers or just strengthen their own daily practice.
Thank you. That's really good advice because I think a lot of teachers, not saying they don't live with the path of yoga consciously and authentically, but I think a lot of us, maybe are teachers struggling financially, and they're like, oh, well, if I do a teacher training, this is a great way to make money.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great way to make money, but are you ready yourself to be in that position to teach other teachers?
Yeah, and I've met some teachers that have had a struggle like that, and they just continuously drew students into their classes that they struggled with, and I find that they weren't showing up for themselves. They had a hard time being able to visualize who they want to be, who they needed to step into, and how they had to move through the day. So when you have that solid, strong practice, it really does give you the vision of what it is that you are capable of doing and what it is that you need to do in order to step up and be kept up in that way for all your students to come in.
Yeah, no, because I mean, we both know that when you start doing teacher trainings, like for a lot of people, we talk about the rub of yoga. I mean, the root word of yoga is to yoke, and it's kind of refining us. And that really happens. It's exacerbated when we go into teacher training, because it's like sometimes, I mean, depending upon the type of teacher training, obviously when you're doing it a weekend, like every month, it's a little bit different than when you're going for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks straight.
Yeah.
Some people, a lot of stuff comes up. And if you're not grounded yourself, it's really hard to be there for someone else.
Yeah.
So, well, Paula, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us and discuss, how to create your own teacher training, kind of the steps that you have to take. Thank you again. I really, really appreciate your time today, sharing it with us.
Thanks for having me. All right.
All right. We'll talk soon, Paula.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.